Hello everyone, and welcome back to Let's Play Resonant Rise with me, NetherTrey. And this is episode 23. Today we are going to get our first turbine going. So right now I am setting up the big reactor that is going to provide the steam for our turbine. So I'll come down here to our hole. This is where our turbine is going to be, and this is the big reactor that is going to provide it with steam. If you're wondering where the light's coming from, these aluminum fuel rods actually provide light. I don't know why. Oops, that's the wrong block. So you're not really going to be able to see the big reactor because it's in the back. But I'm thinking about doing glass here so you can see it through the front of the turbine. I don't know how that's going to look, but I might try that because it could look cool. So I'm just closing in these walls. I'm putting in the last of the aluminum fuel rods. Now I have not tried this particular setup because what I usually do is build a big reactor in the center, a really tall one, and then run the steam from them to all four. But I want to do something different with the center column here with this space. This stone column won't be here. So I want to do something different with this space. So I don't want to do the reactor in the middle. So I'm just going to do four separate smaller reactors beside each of in the back of each of the turbines. So we're going to turn this into glass. So that interior is 7x7, which is 49. We still have 50, so we'll still have one left over. And that should finish off the big reactor. Ooh, if I can make my way up here. It's starting to become a bit of a maze. So all it takes to make reactor casings into reactor glass is glass on each side of it, and that'll get us our reactor glass. I did have more casings auto crafting, so I did get the whole 64 stack of glass, which we're not going to need all of, but we'll need it for the other reactors, so we'll take it. Now when we build the turbine, it is going to be right up against this reactor so that it can provide the steam directly from the reactor without having to go through any kind of conduits, because it takes a very large amount of steam to get this thing going. So what we're actually going to do here is right in the middle of the turbine, so right connected to the, like right up against this, is going to be the bearing that has to be in the center, which means we're going to have to put our coolant ports beside that. So we're going to put one here and one here. This one is going to be what puts the steam into the turbine, and then the other one will take the water from the turbine after it uses the steam, and it's going to put it back in here, and it's going to be recycled into steam. And as you can see, when we place that last block, it did form into a big reactor, and that's how that's going to look. Our ports to put items into our big reactor are right there next to the controller, which is over there. When we close it up, you can't see them from the back side because they're only accessible from the outside. So that's going to be how we do our big reactor. So let me go get some of the turbine parts ready, and we'll set that up as well. I am going to need 37 blocks of Enderium, which I'm hoping we have the resources for, but I guess we'll find out. Be right back. So it does look like we have all the resources we need to make the 37 Enderium blocks. This does take 332 Ender Pearls, so it's a good thing we set up our crafting, our Enderman spawner when we did, and saved up almost a whole barrel full. So I'm going to start that and let that go. That's going to take a long time to finish. And while that's going, we are going to make the parts for our turbine. So we've got 4 turbine housings. We're going to need a lot more than that. So we're going to do 64 for now. Hopefully we don't run out of nether quartz. And we are crafting Enderium, so I'm hoping that that's not going to interfere with the crafting of the turbine housings. It looks... oh, nope, there they go. So we're making our turbine housings. We're also going to need a turbine controller. Get that started. That's already done. We're going to need 2 turbine fluid ports, Start those rolling. The sides and the back, the sides, the top and the bottom of the turbine are going to be just the turbine housings. We are going to need 3 turbine power ports. Get those rolling. We're going to need 1 bearing. Get that. The interior is 14 blocks long, so we're going to need 14 turbine rotor shafts. Start that. And we are going to need 84 turbine rotor blades. So we have the resources for all that. So let's see. We're still waiting on some things to craft up. 2 of the power ports are done. When this stuff is done crafting up, I will be back. Alright guys, so now that I have a lot of the parts auto-crafted, I can at least start getting this set up. So this is where water is going to go from the turbine to the big reactor. So we're going to put a fluid port there, and we're going to hit this with a wrench to change it to the output that sends water over. And then this one is going to be what sends water to the turbine. So that one will leave so that it's red touches red and blue touches blue. And that should be set up correctly. Now, in order to get this thing going, we're going to need a full frame of turbine housing. So I'm going to run these around just like this. And what we're going to do is we're going to do turbine housings all across the bottom, the 2 sides and the top, and then the back and the front will be turbine glass, not the solid housing, so that we can see straight through to the big reactor. We're also going to put our controller here. We're going to put our rotor bearing here, and our 3 power taps. Now our power taps are going to send power to a storage system. They're probably going to send it through a tesseract because it's the easiest way to get such a large amount of power into or out of this system, because it is very large. Most wiring is not meant to carry that much power at once. So I'm going to put these 1, 2, 3. We're going to put a tesseract probably right here, and then cables going from each of the 2 side ones into the tesseract. And that should get all our power into the tesseract, and then we can use the tesseract to send all the power to the storage that we're going to use. So we're also going to need, coming off of the rotor bearing, the turbine rotor shafts, and they are going to run right down the center of the turbine, just like that. Cool. Actually, I think we might do it the other. I think we're going to do it the other way. We are going to put this on this end, and we're going to put a piece of turbine glass right there. So we're also going to need 84 turbine rotor blades, and they are going to go all the way up at the front end so that the enderium's back there. And we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3. And we're going to do this the whole way back through until we don't have any blades left. So from at this point, it's pretty much just me filling in the holes. You guys know what the build is going to be. So let me cut to the finished product. Alright guys, so I have everything put together now inside of this turbine. Both the walls, the ceiling, and the floor are all turbine housings. The back is turbine glass. We have all our rotor blades and the shaft in place. We have our fluid ports placed and configured correctly. So all we have left to do is take the 37 enderium blocks that we auto-crafted and drop those into place. just like that. And depending on what material you use at the back of the reactor here is how efficient it is, basically, in the amount of RF that it produces. Indium is the second to best block you can use for this, next to ludicrate, which its only use is for this. But ludicrate is really expensive. So a ludicrate block is made with 2 indium blocks, 2 blaze rods, and 4 plutonium, or you can do it with a nether star and some blocks of emerald. It's pretty crazy. So now that those are in place, we're going to go ahead and drop our last 2 reactor glass. That will make the turbine form. We're going to throw our tesseract right here. The reactor on the back's already running, which is why it's making the turbine start. Take our 2 conduits, place them just like, get out of here, bat. This is starting to become the bat cave. Like that. I do have this set up already to a main power frequency. I threw a little crafting terminal right here just so we'd be able to access our resources without having to run all the way back up top. So the next thing we're going to need is to get water into this big reactor. So there's already a little bit in there because I did have this set up before recording this just to make sure it worked. But what we're going to do is we're going to take a piece of cobblestone, put it there, bucket of water there, bucket of water there, take a transfer node from extra utilities, and this is a liquid transfer node, and we're going to put it here. That'll automatically connect up to the reactor port on the big reactor, and we can get rid of this little piece of cobblestone here. Now, in order to make this bring water into the system, all you have to do is put some world interaction upgrades into here, and then we're going to want it to be faster, so we'll put a stack of speed upgrades too. Now, this requires an iron pickaxe per world interaction upgrade and a bunch of lapis and a bunch of iron. The speed upgrades require 4 blocks of redstone for each 4 speed upgrades. So a crafting recipe will use 4 blocks of redstones, then give you 4 of these speed upgrades. It also requires 2 gold ingots and I think 3 gold nuggets for every 4. So this is pretty expensive, but these reactor turbine setups require a lot of water, which is one of the reasons why we put the reactor right up against the turbine. Because when the coolant goes from the reactor to the turbine, when they're right next to each other, they can just dump all the steam at maximum transfer rate. Otherwise, you have to try to find conduits and things that will actually handle the vast amount of steam and water that need to transfer back and forth between the two of them. And really the only thing that can realistically do it is these transfer nodes. So now we have our turbine spinning. Right now it's at 800 RPMs, making about 10,000 RF per tick. There's 2 speeds at which the turbine works at maximum efficiency. There's this right here, and then it'll go back into the light blue and blue again, and then it'll go back into another green section at around 1800 RF per tick. So I'm going to disengage the coils here, and basically what that does is this basically creates power through friction. So if we disengage the coils, basically what it means is it's pulling those enderium blocks away from the rotor shaft, which stops it from creating power but allows the turbine blades to spin up faster, which is what we want to let it do for a while. Now, we don't want to let it go too fast. As you can see, it's already creating power. It's dumping it into the tesseract here, which is going up to dumping their power into our capacitor bank upstairs. So as this spins up faster and faster, it'll get close to 1800 RPMs. It should peak out at about 1794-ish, I believe. But if we don't re-engage the coils when it hits there, it will keep spinning up, and it'll spin up so fast that it goes into a danger zone. I know the idea from the mod author was originally that if you let it go too fast, it will explode. I don't think that's a thing that was ever implemented, at least not yet in the mod, but I don't want to test it. So here you can see we're going back into the light blue. So we'll let that spin up for a little bit, and when it gets close to 1800 RPMs, I'll be back. Alright guys, so I overshot it by a little bit. You can see it did start to go into like a yellow kind of color, but this will slow down. Right now it's producing 24,360 RF per tick. The reactor just filled, the turbine just filled up very quickly, which tells me we probably capped off our capacitor bank up here. Yep, we did, so that filled up the turbine. Now, turbines take a while to spin up like that, so it's not efficient to shut them on and off the way we were doing our normal big reactor. So it's just going to run all the time. However, it's much more efficient on fuel. So the rate at which we bring in yellorium is plenty to keep up with the processing rate of the turbine. So that's not a big deal. We will get in yellorium faster than the turbine burns it up. As you can see, we're up to 18,000 yellorium already, so that's not really a big deal. I'm going to turn the ender quarry back on so that we can see if we are keeping up with power. I don't think we are. I think it's still using more than the 24,000 that the turbine is creating. Right now I think it's emptying out the turbine's capacitor as the ender core uses power. So we'll come down and check on that. Well, right now it looks like it is keeping up, but I don't think it will continue to do so. We got lots and lots of resources coming in. If we look right in here, see we're back up to 109 diamonds, so we're doing pretty good on that front. So I'm going to let that run for a little while. We're still up at 1837. Power is going up. Huh. Cool. So I also started doing a little bit of work on our applied energistics system. I changed the way that the system transfers ME channels around. Let's grab some food here so we're not walking everywhere. The way I had it set up originally was that it sent channels through a dense cable out the wall and straight up and down the center here, which uses a lot of these dense cables. And as most of you know, you can use peer-to-peer to send dense cable channels through a smaller cable so that you don't have to use these really expensive dense cables that run to everywhere. You can just run with regular cables and then use a peer-to-peer channel to put the 32 channels out into a dense cable, you know, wherever you need them. I did this on purpose though, because these columns aren't just going to be 32 channels. They are going to be 16 channels of 32 channels each, because you can take a 32 channels, put them into a P2P, send those through a dense cable, and in order to get them out, you're going to need two peer-to-peer buses. So for each 32 channels, you're going to need two peer-to-peer buses, which is going to use 2 channels. So you can really only do 16 channels of 32 channels if you want to use them. So I'm going to show you guys how I set that up. And it does get kind of confusing, so if you're not used to applied energistics channels in the new system, I'll try to explain this the best I can. Hopefully I don't confuse you. So we're up on top of our hypercube right now, and the way I have it set up is there's this main channel. This cable, dense cable, goes all the way over to our mob spawning room. And it comes back here, and it hooks into the side of this ME controller so that it can handle 32 channels. Now, this is not sending channels directly that are being used by our system. What it's doing is it's taking the P2P tunnel from this one. So this one has 32 channels. It's going into here and condensing it into one channel. And then this one's doing the same. So now we got 2 channels, each with 32 channels in them. Here we've got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we've got 8 channels going through our ME network into this cable that have 32 channels apiece within them. So then all I have to do is put a P2P bus here, use our memory card to save the settings, follow this dense cable all the way down here, goes through the wall here, out into the main room, and then over into this room, which is our mob spawning room. And if I go down here, I can see where it comes in the wall right here. It goes up here and then branches off. This P2P tunnel connects to the spawner, the mob spawner P2P tunnel back at our main brain room. So these 32 channels are the ones that are being used for that. I ran it all the way over here. I did connect storage buses up to the barrels for our mob spawning room. I also ran our RF over here into our system so that we can use higher tier mob spawner capabilities with our octadic capacitors. And and this over here is the blaze section where all the blaze drops are. So that seems to be working really well. I do have the enchanting stuff disconnected right now because I have to figure out how I want to hook that up. I might just put another power peer-to-peer tunnel here and run it over, but I don't know. I'm probably going to end up moving that stuff eventually, and I haven't used it for a little bit, even though I know I haven't finished enchanting our gear. I think I'm probably going to upgrade it to the Resonant version anyway, so I don't know if I want to enchant that just yet. Also, over here is our sheep farm. I have that hooked up to a storage bus so that we have access to all our wool and power coming out of a peer-to-peer tunnel here as well. This cable comes from one of the other columns on the other side of the room, so it runs all the way back here, and I had to set this one up so that I could start to get another farm going outside. So here we have our mob spawner connection, here we have our animal spawner connection. I'm going to have to do a connection for our tree farm and probably one on each side for our big reactor setup, our big reactor level, or our turbine level. So that's how far I've gotten with that. That means we have plenty of channels flowing throughout our base. So we have 32 times 16 channels in each of these columns, which is a lot of channels. Cool. So let's go down here and check on our turbine. It's back down to just being in the green, so that's good. It is still slowing down. It'll slow down probably to about 1794, and we'll be producing just over 24,000 RF with this guy. So it's working well. And it looks like for now it is keeping up. No, now it's starting to drop in power. So yeah, we will still be losing power. But don't worry, because we're making 4 more of those. So we will eventually be able to keep up with the Ender Quarry. And if we make enough power, we might even be able to use a fortune upgrade on our Ender Quarry, which will really help in the number of diamonds and all those things that we get. Which is really the big thing that we're looking for, because we've already got enough ore to last us a lifetime, probably. If we go up here and look at our ME system, we look up iron, we have 18,000 iron ingots. Copper, 10,000 copper ingots, tin, we've got 10,000 tin, osmium, we got 23,000. Remember at the beginning when I said that osmium overspawns and they need to work on their spawn rate? Yeah, we've got twice as much osmium as we do iron, and iron is the next most highly populated ore underground. 1,300 gold. Yeah, we're in pretty good shape when it comes to actual metals. So all I have to do at this point is keep digging holes. Did I dig this up high enough so I know when to stop? I have to keep digging these holes so I know, or so we can set up the rest of our turbines. I knew it was close. Cool. So I'm going to dig out the rest of these, and when we're ready to set up some more turbines, I'll be back. I'm also going to go over to our little terminal right here type in turbine, and let's see if we can... Actually, we need a big reactor first, so let's go to our reactor stuff. We do have a bunch of reactor casings. We're going to need 2 more ports. We're going to need 4 of these fuel rods. We need 1 more controller. And we need 3 reactor coolant ports, actually, because we need the 2 that hook up to the turbine. And we need the 1 where the water comes in. Now that we're crafting up those, we can tell this that we're going to need a bunch more reactor casings. Cool. So let me keep digging holes here, and I'll be back. Alright guys, so the hole is made, and we continue to build big reactors. So what I'd like to do for the power storage for this, because this is in the end going to make up like an astronomical amount of power, is I want to get into Draconic Evolution, because I want to use that energy sphere that I can never remember what it's called. So we don't really have all that much of the draconium dust that we need to get into Draconic Evolution. We do have a little bit that we found in the Nether, but most of it is found in the end. And this pack has Hardcore Ender expansion in it, and also Draconic Evolution, which means it adds a lot to the end. And one of the things it makes happen is the Ender Dragon is a lot tougher. So with the gear I have, if I go in there, I might be okay because I can fly and I got pretty decent armor. But he does crazy things like hit you with lightning bolts that insta-kill you. So I think I'm going to try to get some Wyvern armor going from Draconic Evolution before we mess with that guy. As much as I would love to get in there right now. So let's put our fuel rods here, 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 and here. And then we have coolant ports that are going to go on this side. We've got 7 more reactor casings. So let's do this one, this one, this one, and this one. And, oops. Oh, no, we'll put that there. We are going to want one of our coolant ports there for the water. And then we're going to need more casings. I have some crafting. Let's see how we're doing. There's a stack. Make another stack. The biggest problem I've been running into is running out of charcoal, because our tree farm is making charcoal, but it's not making it as fast as I would like it to. So every once in a while I have to go up there and throw some bone meal in to really get the charcoal rolling. So like I said, I want to get into Draconic Evolution. I want to get a Wyvern bow because that is really nice. I'm going to have to keep enchanting in order to get the enchantments that I need for that stuff. Because if you've never played Draconic Evolution before, the armor and the weapons and tools are really neat in that you don't have to directly enchant them. If you have an enchanted book, they have a special inventory slot that you can put those enchanted books in, and they act as if they have those enchantments. But you can pull the books out and swap them around however you want, and it's really nice. So the coolant port is going to go here. So we're only really going to need 2 more casings for this one, and then we need a bunch of glass. Reactor glass. It's 9x9, so the interior is 7x7. So we're going to need 49 reactor glass. We've got 17 already. Oop, 49 minus 17 is 32. So there's just taking the reactor casings we've already crafted and turning them into reactor glass. Need a couple more casings. We also need, let's see, 7 times 4 is 28 fuel rods. See, we're out of charcoal already. So we're still missing 176 charcoal, which means we're going to have to go upstairs and throw some charcoal in. Why are we not elevatoring? There we go. So if we go in here, we can give this a little boost. The problem is that when the wood comes down from the tree, it splits evenly between these two. At this point, we have enough wood that really we'd like to prioritize the charcoal. We should also probably speed this guy up because it has no augments and it's only a tier 1 furnace. So yeah, we might actually do that too. But for now, guys, that's an episode. We got our big turbine, or our big reactor turbine setup started. We have our first one running and producing power for us, and it's running our ender quarry, and we're working on a second one. So thank you again for watching the videos. Like, comment, subscribe if you want to see more, and thank you for coming to join me. See you next time.